Welcome to After Wine School, the podcast that demystifies wine and makes it approachable for everyone. Join Keith Wallace and Alana Zerbe, two of the nation's leading wine experts, as they uncork everything you need to know about wine, from picking the right bottle to mastering unforgettable food and wine pairings. This isn't about stuffy lectures or confusing jargon. It's about enjoying wine the way it's meant to be. So grab a glass and let's dive in. Don't forget to subscribe to After Wine School today.
Once again, hello and welcome to After School, the wine podcast.
What's today's topic, Keith?
Thank you. I always forget that part. I'm thinking, you're putting me on the spot here. I'm thinking wine reviews.
I love it.
Okay.
Wine reviews. And the wine that we'll be tasting together at the end of the podcast is from Chateauneuf de Pape. It is from the winery Domaine Tour Saint Michel, and the bottling is called Cuvée des Deux Sœurs, blend of two sisters.
Wow. I don't know. No, I don't know how you do that.
I don't know. So I am Alana Zerbe. I'm the director of wine education at the Wine School of Philadelphia. And this is my partner, Keith Wallace. He is the founder and director of the Wine School of Philadelphia. And Keith, we are sponsored, as always, by the National Wine School, the premier education program for aspiring sommeliers looking to study online.
Woohoo.
They've also asked us to give them a
Yeah.
disclaimer.
Yeah.
And put all of the onus on us for any viewpoint, outlook, opinion. Those are solely our own personal opinions, and do not reflect the opinions or viewpoints of the National Wine School of Philadelphia, or frankly, anybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My mom,
Absolutely.
not even my
No.
dog.
Oh, yeah, no.
Actually,
nothing to do with this.
Charles is okay with it.
Olive,
Absolutely not. No, she is.
No, she's like,
You have said things that I do not appreciate.
Keith, let me show you
Oh,
the
yeah.
bottle.
Oh, yes.
Because
Here we go. Yeah.
this bottle,
Yes.
beautiful bottle,
Yeah.
has
Oh, yeah. That's such
an ugly
okay.
sticker.
I don't even know if they can see that, but look at that. I mean,
No, but
so
you've
look,
seen them.
this one's actually spectacularally bad.
Yes.
This was done by a third grader, and they just had to tap this on there and it's not even like it's off kilter. It's 93
Those
points,
bad.
Wine Spectator. Now, clearly they did this at the last minute because they were like somebody realized that this got a high rating or multiple high ratings, and then but
It's a very good rating.
it is. That's a great wine too. But oh my God. Okay. A couple of things going on here. First off, what are wine ratings? First of all, why are they important?
Mhm.
And I gotta say, wine ratings used to matter a great deal.
Mhm.
Wine ratings,
Tell me, Keith.
oh,
Take me back to the olden times.
so back when I was a young lad, and I literally is when I was back when I was a young lad, when I was a young little whippersnapper of a winemaker, like it did, a good rating made or broke you though.
Sure.
It did. Like getting like a Robert Parker in the 90s or a Wine Spectator, really, it meant when that happened to me, I knew that my career was on the up, right? I knew that at that point, once I had got a 92 and then a 93 rating from the Wine Advocate. When I'm using all this jargon, should we describe what the rating system is where we even start off?
I'll give my little 101 synopsis
Smart,
that I tell
smart.
students in a beginning class, because everybody asks, what are ratings? Are they useful? And I do talk about how this is a real American invention on the 100-point scale, which a lot of Europeans and people in other parts of the world don't even understand. But Americans immediately know 90 to 100. Oh, that's an A, 80 to 89. That's a B, and so on. In wine, there are really three of the most reputable publications that give ratings, and those are the ones that you want to look to. So we have Wine Spectator, which is the source of that terrible sticker,
Yeah.
which you don't often see Wine Spectator stickers.
Yeah, no, that was something that
I mean, I know they did it themselves.
that was pretty hack.
Yeah, it's
Notice that.
unusual.
Yeah.
Spectator, wine advocate, and wine enthusiast. So you'll see WA, WE, or WS. Those are really the three most highly regarded. And from those, an 88 point or above is going to be absolutely reliable. It may not be your favorite wine, but you are pretty assured that it is solid winemaking, representative of a region, and it's going to be good juice. So you can feel good about that purchase, especially if it's in the $15 to $20 range.
Oh,
So that's my brief. That's my
I
101,
like that.
quick and
That's
dirty.
really an excellent, simple way of saying it. I love
Now,
that.
I may also, if I have some time, I may
Yeah.
say the worst thing I've ever heard in a wine shop.
Yeah.
This was on the main line in Philly
Oh,
in a
no.
wine shop, and there was a woman, and most wine buyers are women, most
That's true.
consumers.
That's true.
And she taught her daughters, she said, go into the aisles and find the highest rating, and that's what we'll buy.
Are you serious?
I did.
Oh, my.
I
Oh, that is awful.
did. I
That
did.
is
She
absolutely awful.
taught her daughters, taught her
Oh,
children to
yeah.
buy wine purely on
Okay.
in the entire store what
Yeah.
bottle had the highest. So that's the other end of the
Yeah,
spectrum. This
that's
is
yeah.
how not to do it,
Yeah.
but I just bring it
Yeah.
up.
Okay. And I have because I do know collectors like that.
Mm,
And back in the day, when as a winemaker, and then when the school started early on, this was pretty common. People would buy ratings, and that's how they did it. But the problem is that they didn't understand what the rating is.
mhm,
No, I want to actually add to your list of great places, the most reputable,
mm.
Venice online.
Oh, sure.
They're
That's
newer.
true. Yeah.
They're now as well established, and they've actually really pulled some of the top guns from the other more established. So they're doing a great job,
Yeah.
and I trust their
Yes.
reviews. And notice the ones we didn't mention, there's a reason. So they're all, but so I describe it a little bit differently. And I describe that you have to understand what the rating is. Rating, you would assume that a rating means that something that's a 90 to 100 is excellent, and that's true. But it's what you don't know is that it's not a deliciousness scale.
Right.
It's not a scale of like
Exactly.
how delicious it is, but actually how first off, how correct it is,
Mhm.
and then how well done it is. And so correctness is very specific. And this is if you were we actually train how we train sommeliers in both our school and actually nationally at the National Wine School, how they train is that typicity. So each region and each grape have very specific typical flavors. Grenache, for instance, it's going to have this the Greek, right? Going to have a lavender nose. It's going to be low in acid. It's going to be high in tannins and medium to high in body. This is what Grenache is.
Mhm.
So if you're tasting Grenache, it's rated as typical. So 84 or above, right? Okay, that means this grape is typical. But then if you layer on top of that, say it's from Chateauneuf de Pape.
Mhm.
Then okay, Grenache from Chateauneuf de Pape, that has its own like regional style,
Mhm.
which is gonna be big and fleshy, and it's gonna have complex. There's a lot of things going on there. What's that regional style? So those two things equal a high rating. So say if you don't like Grenache, you're not gonna like 100-point Grenache. Like,
Exactly.
just because it's the perfect Grenache
Exactly.
from Chateauneuf de Pape doesn't mean you're gonna like it. It's a bad rate. So
You're right in my ear.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I know, I get so angry, so upset about this because it's such a
I know.
because from I think this is why the downfall has
Mhm.
happened, where no
Mhm.
people stop paying attention because how many
And by
thou
downfall, you mean like the downward trend of wine
well
consumption.
oh, no, I
Oh,
mean by ratings, like,
oh,
people use less rate so, like, for instance, if you put into Google Trend, right, you're tracking how popular certain terms are over
mhm,
time.
mhm.
So, the term Robert Parker, the most influential wine critic of all times, who
Did he came up with the 100 points
he did,
scale.
yes,
Yes.
yes, absolutely. But it was him and Wine Advocate that really cemented the scale. And people had used other scales or similar scales
Right.
before him, but
Right.
he's the one who, if you got in the 80s and 90s, if you got a 92 or 93 from him,
Mhm.
your entire inventory got sold out. Not just the one that got that rating, but everything else too. So I knew when I got those, my wines got high ratings,
Mhm.
it wiped out the entire inventory of the winery. Haven's Winery we ran out of everything. And that meant that it was fantastic. But
So I want to come back to that. So
yeah,
you're describing typicity and
yes,
what goes into a rating.
yes,
I want to come back and make sure we talk about
yes.
how a wine gets rated.
Oh, that's a good idea.
But
But I do want to get back to
yeah.
why. Actually, let me just finish off this one thought I have.
Mhm.
Because what I want to talk about is like a little bit why it's fallen off.
Yes.
Because why so wineries so if when you did that Google trend, like it used to be that everybody like the search term for wine advocate or Robert Parker, the wine critic, was huge.
Mm.
Everybody who's about wine, they were actually searching for his name and his publication, the wine advocate. But now when you do that,
Was that on the information superhighway?
yes, the information story, that's exactly right. Come on down, yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
whole new world.
yeah, that's right. Vice President Gore is here to show you the
Yeah.
way. Everyone's
I
here.
can't make fun of you. I too
Yes, I know.
use the information superhighway.
You're dating yourself as much as me. You're bringing yourself down. This is just, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
All right, okay. Now but now if you do the same thing for the last 10 years, there's almost no search for his name or the wine advocate.
Oh, people don't know who he
The
is.
bell curve of this went from nothing in the 80s or early 80s to really high and now almost back down to nobody knows him. And I use that as that nobody knows what wine reviews are anymore and they don't use them anymore. So I would like to talk about like why they should be using them and using them
Sure.
judiciously. But
Yeah.
let's talk about you want to talk about something first.
Just as an ancillary topic, because you've mentioned a couple times that your wine got
Yeah.
a rating.
Yeah.
How does a wine get a rating? Because
Oh,
I remember
yes.
a friend of ours had
Yeah.
a New Jersey winery,
Yes.
was one of the first, and I think
Yes.
it was Spectator. No, it was Enthusiast
Um,
gave them a rating.
I know who it is,
Okay,
but we
let's
didn't
not worry
mention
about it.
them,
Let's not worry
and
about
I
it.
don't wanna give them a
Fair enough.
press.
We're not going to worry about that.
Yeah,
But the point was, it's
yeah,
very unusual for
yeah,
a winery from an up and coming area to get
absolutely.
reviews. So could you just give a little bit background on like how you get a wine reviewed by any of these guys?
Okay, so first of all, it's hard if you're a brand new wine so what new wine region, even say like New Zealand, it took many years before they started getting reviews. Because the thing is, the first thing is there has to be an established industry that knows what typicity is. You have to say, okay, we all know now what a Sauvignon
Mhm,
Blanc from New Zealand is, but there was a time that wasn't even known.
mhm.
Even by wine critics, or wine writers, they didn't know what that should be. So once it's established what the expectations are, then you start seeing reviews. Now,
And just to be
yeah,
clear, when you're talking about a benchmark, a
yeah,
typicity for New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, that rating
yeah.
is going to be compared to other New Zealand, not any wine in the
Oh,
world, but
no. Yes, you're 100% right. You are reviewed against, because it's about typicity of the grape and the region to combine, you are judged by others. Yeah, so if we know how to establish what Sauvignon Blanc in New Zealand tastes like, then you get compared to others. Now, how you get reviews, once there's an established, this is what this region does, this is what and then what they do with this grape. It doesn't have to be very good either, mind you. There are places that make Carmenere that smell and taste like an ashtray, but you're judged according to that style.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I know, yeah, and there's places like there are places for Pinot, the same thing, where they highlight the baby diaper, and that's super gross.
And this is why I don't talk about typicity in Wine 101.
Yes, exactly, 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 because it gets real weird, real
Yeah,
freaky, real quickly, and that's true.
yeah.
Okay, but at that point, when there's it's an understanding of what the area does, what grapes they do well, how they make it, all these things, and then you don't get reviewed unless you're sending it in. Like, you have to send in usually 2 or 6 bottles, and yeah, and pretty much sending it in blind. You might send it into all of them, and you might do it for years and never get a review.
Now, this I'm curious about, and I don't think we've talked about this ever. Are there wineries, I'm sure, today that have PR arms that handle that sort of thing? Or,
Actually, surprisingly, the answer is yes.
okay.
The larger corporate-owned wineries, they have, right? They do, they have a team that sends it in, but because this part of the wine industry wants to and does, usually they're tasting things blind or they're tasting
Mhm.
things in a category. what they want, this is one place where independence,
Mhm.
so you'd have a negative effect. If you have PR people trying to reach out and trying to promote wines, you probably gonna have a negative effect. Because
Ah,
this is the one place, usually,
interesting.
and there have been, now mind you, there is one specific publication, it's easy to Google, figure it out which one I'm talking about, that got busted, where their critics were actually taking bribes.
Yeah, yeah,
So these things happen,
sure.
and surprisingly, all of these wineries, they got all good reviews. This was, a
Well,
decade ago, and it was a huge problem, and yeah, for them, and
and apparently back in the 70s and 80s, perhaps,
yeah,
it was common in Europe, I've
yes,
heard,
yes, that's true.
for a critic to
Yeah,
go to a winery, go into the winery, leave the trunk open,
yep,
leave the boot
yep,
open,
yep,
and
yeah,
just with the understanding that
yeah,
will be loaded up
yeah.
and you'll get your rating
Oh,
in
yeah,
due course.
yeah, and that doesn't happen anymore. What happens now is that once you start getting good reviews,
Mhm.
and you get a few, like 1 or 2, then there's an expectation that when they start coming by your winery to take tasting. So if you're just an anonymous winery sending in your samples, you're gonna get reviews. Hopefully, you may not, but if you start being established and they really like, and you become really well known,
Mhm.
what starts happening is those critics start going to your winery to get barrel samples,
Ah,
and then they do because they've independently said you are a great winery. Now they're gonna come, and now they expect the red carpet, and
oh.
and actually, I was taking, students on a tour, and and this was actually in the Rhone Valley, and a very famous wine critic happened to have basically be in the same place as I was,
I
but a
remember that.
couple days ahead,
Yes, that's right.
and everyone had stories about the guy and how much,
Yes,
like, out he expected everything.
right,
And, yeah, so if you're at a certain elite level critic, you are expecting people to just give you things.
right.
And so you're being vetted. So that's what happens.
Okay.
So there's a kind of a negative little thing that if you get popular enough, you are actually now obliged to actually
Wow.
kiss the ring. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, that is now interesting. It's less common now, just largely because the influence of these wine reviews and wine ratings have just plummeted. No,
Mhm, mhm.
much fewer people. But this is how you get a review and how. But at the end of the day, I do think people don't use them enough. If they use reviews to thin out the thousands and thousands of wines that are out there, if basically like if I want a Cabernet Franc from South Africa, they do that incredibly well. It's a very distinct style. It's very unctuous, incredibly beautiful. I love that wine. But it's hard to find South African Cabernet Francs in the United States that you may not recognize the producer
Mhm,
at all. It's very possible to have a producer that you've never heard of pop up into the market.
mhm, mhm,
And that rating helps you. That says, oh, it's got an 88 points and it's $30. Oh, it's typical. Good. I
mhm,
want to buy that.
mhm.
That's something that I think is really a good idea. Oh, it's a 95 point so and
Mhm.
yes, that is really great. Like, if I see a Merlot from Walla Valley gets a 95 points, I've never heard of the producer. If it's like a good price, say it's a reasonable price point, I'm buying it because I'm like, oh, here's a new producer. I don't know them. This is a good shot to be like, this somebody else, a reputable person has already given me an edit. Because there's so many. I taste more wines, and you do too, than
Mhm.
most anybody ever will. And nobody should taste as much wines as we do. But we drink for a living.
That's the deal.
So we taste a little bit, and of a lot of wines, like we may only have an ounce of wine.
And I drink remarkably less than people think.
Oh, I know we do
I
though. Yes.
and that's the truth.
Yeah. I know that's the caveat. Thank
I
you.
still
Yeah.
lie to my doctor, but,
Yes.
yeah, but still, you would
Yeah.
be surprised. Yes.
1 ounce, and just you and I, like both of us, we may teach 3 or 4 classes, might be recording things, talking about
Right.
things. And what happens is that, yeah, so we try lots, way more, but even we don't even try 1% of the wines that are released every year.
Yeah.
So even we can't, you need to have an edit. And I do a lot of the wine buying for the Wine School of Philadelphia, and you do as well. And so how we work that is, yeah, you do have to have, if you don't know a winery or it's new to the market, you do need that edit. Like
Mhm.
it just says, hey, this is an important winery that you don't know about.
Mhm.
You should look at them. And that's what I think reviews are. And I think it's a good way of having a healthy edit along with the edit of the wine shop that you're looking at anyways. But
Mhm.
that's just something I do recommend.
And I think it's worth saying, being that we are mostly working from Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
a control state. We do not have the option. Most stores, you cannot go to the manager and rely on that person to get to know your personal taste and
That's
show you new things.
yeah.
So I think what you're saying is really true that
Yeah.
in especially that kind of setting, most people in the free world get to go to a wine shop
Yeah.
and can converse and find, oh, I really, my palate is the same as this person's, and I really like what
Yeah.
this person has shown me.
Yeah.
We don't get to do that by and large. Ratings are pretty critical.
That's true. Oh, that's great. And that's a very valid point. But I think in a maybe a future podcast, we could talk about why I don't trust, and I don't think people should trust the recommendations at wine stores either.
Well,
But that's,
I'm backing into that.
yeah,
So
okay.
something I do tell my 101 students, because I'm impressing upon them that there are three solid, nationally, internationally recognized,
Yeah.
that when you go to a wine shop and it
Yes.
says Harry's Thursday night pick,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can keep walking unless Harry, unless
Yeah.
you know that
True.
you have built a relationship with this person, you have a similar palate. But that's
Yeah.
true too. And yeah, I'll just leave it there.
Okay, that's absolutely. I have way more, and I think we should bring this up again because I know
Sure.
because the deep dark secrets of like graft and the pay to play that most wine shops, especially the ones I used to consult for, the chain I used to, was very dirty. Recommendations were not to be trusted, but
Yeah.
and that's why, like I do like these. So yeah, I no one uses wine ratings as much as they used to use it in the wrong way.
Hmm.
And yeah, how they function in a healthy marketplace, how you can use it to buy great wines. I think those are all valid points. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Just one thing, any crowdsourcing type of review, seller tracker, there's the app that everybody uses that I
Yeah,
don't use. I can't, I
I know what you're
forget the
talking
name,
about,
but
but again, I'm not going to give their name. I don't want to give them any.
whenever it's
Yeah,
crowdsourced,
yeah,
and you don't know, it's just a general public,
yeah,
it's not really worth, that's not the type of rating
yeah.
that's worthwhile either.
I would push back a little bit on Seller Tracker, actually.
Okay.
I think that if there's no other information out, Seller Tracker, because it's just geeks. It's a very self-selected crowd that uses it. It's difficult, outdated, and but the people on it really do care.
Okay.
And so I think that of all of them, if there's no other information, I would trust them before. But most crowdsource outside of that, because that's so difficult to use, is you get the here's the everyone likes fruit.
Mhm.
Everyone likes simple wines.
Mhm.
And so the worst wines possible get really highly rated on when you actually take the general public. And if you want just general wines, then you're spending $8 a bottle and you should never spend any more than that.
Sure. Right.
And but never buy anything that's rated well because ratings say that this is unique and interesting.
Mhm.
And if that's not what you want, you should not be buying wines that are expensive.
Mhm.
Because if you are, you're wasting your money. And that's also, if you're new to wine, enjoy the easy, fruit forward stuff that has one or two flavors and that's it. If you don't want to have a wine that actually is really unique, then or intense, oh my God, there are so many highly rated wines that are just going to repel the majority of wine drinkers, like
Mhm.
the people who want their wines just simple.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. Yeah, yeah.
Well, this is not a simple wine, but
No.
I would love
Oh,
with you.
oh, absolutely. Oh, I have it right here.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Chateauneuf de Pop, baby. Now this one, I actually, because I look at this, and we had this argument before
Yeah,
about
what's
what's
the
the
name of
bricking.
it?
Oh, we were screaming at each other. We were throwing corks. I have a black eye. And yeah, what is bricking? Actually,
Yeah,
and you were
yeah,
valid. It was a
yeah.
valid argument because I call bricking the clear. meniscus on the edge of when you're looking at a wine, it's see-through at the edge,
Well,
but
this is classic Keith and Alana, where we're actually talking about the same
same
thing.
thing, yep.
We describe it completely
Differently.
different.
But you say it's actually the brick color at the edge,
Yeah, I mean,
which
the,
makes more
the
sense.
bricking that I tell students to look for is that tan adobe color, and it's like a brick color. Now what Keith was pointing out was on this wine the meniscus is completely clear and then the bricking starts.
And which I think is pretty typical, but this is actually so even by looking at this and those who are just listening, it's a wine that you can actually see through, and it's a young wine, it's super young wine, but and this tells me because it's from Chateauneuf de Pape, that
Hmm.
it's actually is probably close to 100% Grenache, and right before, we started, recording, I checked, it's 90%, and which makes sense because Grenache actually doesn't hold pigment very well, but it can be a monster wine. Also, I can guarantee you this saw no oak because Grenache oxidizes and oak contributes to oxidation, and you can destroy some great Grenache. I do know only one producer in Chateauneuf de Pape that actually ages their Grenache in oak, and you know how they do it? It's insane. They actually fill up another tank. They put they fill up the well, so here they fill the barrel up, the oak barrel with Grenache. They fill up a larger tank with more Grenache. They put the oak barrel in that tank and the stainless steel tank, and then seal it so that there's wine surrounding it, and there's wine in it. The wine surrounding it gets discarded. This is the only way you can oak age Grenache without it oxidizing. Insane. That wine,
Okay, I have questions, but that's
yes.
for another time.
That's for another time. Yes, and what it was, one of my advanced students brought it in for one of his projects for when he was doing an advanced project on the France, and yeah, it was yeah, it was insanely delicious and also just insane. Of course, this is dude was a doctor, famous doctor,
It's fair.
who was it was okay spending like $300 on a bottle of Grenache just to prove a point that you can oak age it. I just kind of wanted to prove it wrong.
I like that you get those
Yes,
students.
I do.
Me
Oh,
too.
oh yeah, I love them too. Okay,
Love Granada.
yeah, this now this is a grape we agree on. I love the Rhone
Mhm,
Grenache. My preference is always Grenache. It's a little higher, more acidic.
mhm, mhm,
Here in Chateauneuf, I can guarantee you this is going to be big and unctuous
mhm.
with those.
Just beautiful warm spices,
Yeah.
Barrique.
Oh God. Yeah, it is very lavender. Oh my God, this wine is. And there are other things going on here. Before we start rolling, you mentioned I would like to steal this licorice.
Mhm.
You had said that, and I 100% agree.
But now that I'm going into this a second time,
Yeah.
oh, you're gonna hate this. But
Oh,
there is a whiff, and it's a happy childhood memory of mine.
black.
Cherry jello,
That's awesome. No, that's fantastic. Oh my God, that is
like
fantastic. I
right
love that.
before it sets.
Yes. Mm,
Okay, misophonia
okay.
warning. Take it
Yeah,
easy.
I already did. I'm glad you said that she made it for you because, like, at first I thought you were just saying that your grandmother smelled like.
No, she did.
Oh my god. Alright, here okay. Okay. So structurally just unctuous, big. Now, they're surprising a little bit of red fruit in with this
Yeah.
a huge amount of dark plum, blackberry, and even going
Mhm,
towards a little bit of blueberry. But
mhm.
then we have, yeah, structurally, the tannins are very uh, fine grain, surprisingly, but aggressive. So, like, you have, they're there. There's definitely a wine that you would have to, like we did. We decanted this. We Corvined it about an
Okay.
hour and a half ago. Definitely, because you need to open this up unless you're holding it for 5 to 6 years. Now, oh, but yeah, no, and the finish going, it's not, I was expecting Earl Grey, but it's more, it's
Mhm,
almost,
mhm,
it's not going towards
mhm.
chocolate, but a little bit of espresso.
I was thinking it is surprisingly mocha
Yeah,
espresso.
which is weird because there's no oak
Right,
here,
right.
and so you taste that, and you're like, "Okay, this is really the blackberry fruits, blueberry, and tannin." So, like, you combine
And like
giving
that
you that.
baker's chocolate
Yes.
can get
Yep.
like a little dusty.
Yes. Yes. Usually, you only get that this specific if you have oak, but I just there's no other flavors indicating oak. There's no vanilla,
Yeah,
no nutmeg.
no.
So, even if they have a 10% Syrah in here or Mourvedre, I think there's maybe a little Syrah. But from tasting it, but this is, yeah, this is overwhelmingly, this is why, honestly, everyone. Like certain people will memorize every grape that grows in Chateauneuf,
Hmm.
which is, I think of it as 12, but you told me I'm wrong.
Well,
It's 18 or something
you
now.
had it right earlier. 13 was the
13.
standard.
Yes, yes.
And I believe now it's 18. It may even be more
Yeah,
because they keep
yeah.
breaking down the
But
same grape into calling them different.
yeah, yeah, because the slight genetic differences that start showing up in these vineyards that are ancient. But honestly, it's mostly Grenache though. Like almost always, you don't need to know the 9,000 different grapes that grow here. It's most likely going to be Grenache. There's only a few that actually do significant amount of Mourvedre, but that's it. Like
Yeah.
everything else are tiny little bits. It is a Grenache mecca.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
most of the great towns in the Southern Rhone. I love this. Oh, so
Well, enjoy, folks. Thank you for joining us.
yes.
I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
No, I'm just gonna say enjoy this highly rated wine. With the corniest little stamp on there.
Yeah,
Oh, it's embarrassing.
it's tough.
It's so try hard sometimes,
Mm,
but it's a very good way of buying wines if you don't know the region.
fair enough. Folks, if you have any thoughts, comments, feedback, tell a friend.
Yes. Oh yeah. The more, if you like this, if you like the honest, straightforward approach that we're taking here, please, the best thing you do, tell everyone you know. Like, especially the snobs, especially if they're gonna hate it. Especially if you know that person who
Oh,
just
no.
thinks that they're the smartest person in wine and they just make you feel bad about what you like. Send this to them. And just maybe as like to grow up,
Or
or
not.
maybe just to say a big F you. And hey, look, and if we had Patreon, hey, give us some cash, and we'll just tell them to go fuck themselves on the podcast. We're not going to actually do that, but just by all means, just if you let people know, that's the best thing. If you enjoy this, rate it, subscribe if you can, download it, all that happy stuff, and yeah, and become a disciple. Live outside the wine school. We'll preach to you. We'll throw you corks every morning and a little tasting of wine.
Wrapping it up.
Oh, I want to start a cult.
I know we've talked about this.
All right. Okay.
Great.
Thanks for spending time with us on After Wine School. If you enjoyed today's episode, hit subscribe so you never miss out on more wine wisdom, tips, and laughs. Until next time, raise your glass, savor the moment, and cheers to you.